Hello, squad. We are now attempting a third iteration of the show. Uh, Basically, going to be treating this as somewhat of a podcast. Going to have a little bit of face cam action potentially. Going to overlay this above some chess just to see how it goes. I know that all of my devoted fan base, I'm sure we're up in the millions by now, may not be as welcoming to change as I am. I'm known as a very adaptable and think on my feet kind of guy, but please bear with me. We're making an attempt to better this. So basically, realized I don't like talking while playing chess. So just gonna run through a couple topics here. I think the first thing that, it's a social issue that I care deeply about that I think we as a society need to have a discussion, and that's gentrification. A lot of people have a lot of strong feelings about gentrification. Many people feel that it's not really that big of a deal, whereas many people feel that it's the blight of modern society. And while I'm not here to pass any judgments on gentrification or not, one thing that I can say with absolute certainty is if you are unsure if your hometown is undergoing gentrification, all you have to do is look outside your window, and if you see a group of white people in their mid 20s doing a lookalike competition for celebrity that you have never heard of, it's gentrification, and you have a moral obligation to go out and make fun of those people as loudly as possible. The type of people that participate in these celebrity lookalike competitions, they're very weak-willed, and you can really bully them to leave any particular situation. Granted, they're not going to break their lease. They're still going to stay in your town, running their foolish businesses and amassing large amounts of credit card debt, but they'll be out of sight and therefore largely out of mind. So you're walking around and you hear that they're doing a Glenn Howerton lookalike contest. Go outside and ask them why they think that they've never achieved the lofty goals that their parents set for them when they were teenagers. Most of these people that are participating in these celebrity lookalike contests were told by their parents that you're going to be president someday. And that's why now in their 20s, they have latched on to any form of exceptionalism they have. And it's gotten so pathetic. It's just like using cocaine and the slow transition to using crack. One day you're thriving off of academic validation, and the next day you're on TikTok calling yourself a himbo because that's what gets you clicks and that's what gets you validation. So, that's kind of the whole take on it. Um, it's your obligation to bully people that participate in celebrity lookalike contests. I don't know if my wise co-host has any opinions on this.
Hello, I'm the wise co-host. My opinions on celebrity lookalike contests.
Yeah, and the people that participate in them, mainly psychology degree, by the way, so she can probably give some very good insights.
Psychology degree that I do not use, but
I don't think anyone with a psychology degree has ever used a psychology degree.
they're doing shit like me and talking about
True.
celebrity lookalike contests and dissecting it. Um, I think that everybody who participates has an inflated. Anybody participating in a celebrity lookalike contest not only has too much time on their hands,
True.
definitely does not work a job,
True.
or you have a semi-fake job. And what I mean by that is self-managed social media influencer slash graphic designer slash creative director is not a job.
So wise.
They don't, they have too much time on their hands, and they all have a very inflated idea of their importance and what they look like. And I think it is almost a little bit meta, because you get tons of people who have the ego enough to take themselves out of the house and go to a competition with plenty of others because they believe they're as attractive and similar looking to a famous person. And then the minute they show up, they realize how mediocre they truly are, as they are around plenty of other people who somehow have more money than them or look better than them, etc.
These are all very wise insights.
That's what I think about it.
I think also, in addition, I agree with everything that you're saying. I think in addition to, to really focus on these people don't have a real job, you know, that's an extremely, yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying there. And not to get too into politics here, but a policy that is universally or almost universally supported by people of our generation is student loan forgiveness. And while I support that, I think student loan forgiveness should come with uh, the disclaimer or the qualification that have if you have ever competed in a celebrity lookalike contest, you don't get your student loans forgiven because why aren't you putting that energy into a job or gambling, fucking anything,
Gambling.
gambling,
Yeah.
you know? It's very interesting. Um, I don't want to be hung up too long on a specific topic, so you know, I wrote a pretty in-depth script for this episode. The next thing I wanted to talk about was steroids as a youth. As a young man, I came close many times to using steroids. Really, the only thing ever stopping me was I didn't know where to get needles. I had no problem getting steroids. Needles were the problem, so I didn't take steroids. Kind of wish I had, but to dive, I'm getting sidetracked. The concept of steroids for youth athletics is a very interesting one because, fun fact, high school athletes cannot be drug tested.
Really?
Really.
Did not know that.
This is because, and this is a fun little, this also largely fuels a lot of my opinions on drug policy and things of that nature, government overreach, I suppose you could say, is that drug testing began in high school athletics with football. They were drug testing high school football players. And then the schools said, well, we shouldn't just test the drug. We shouldn't just drug test the high school football players. We should drug test all of the athletes. And then that trickled down into, well, we should drug test everyone who participates in extracurriculars. And then that trickled down into, well, we should drug test every student. So in the 90s, there was a pretty brief period where every single high schooler in America was getting drug tested.
That's. Can I
Yeah.
interject? You said when? In the 80s?
90s.
In the 90s? That's actually insane because the rate of most hallucinogens and stimulants for their prevalence of being used in high schoolers was the highest in the 80s and 90s.
Well, they were drug testing largely for steroids and marijuana. The trickle down of what they were testing for, it just became a thing of catching kids smoking weed. So legislation passed, no more drug testing high schoolers. So that had led to what I was dealing with in high school, which was the majority of mediocre college athletes at large schools took steroids in high school, and that's how they got their scholarships at these larger D1 schools. Oh, I shouldn't say the majority. That's unfair, and that sounds like I'm a guy who's bitter that I didn't play higher than fucking club level athletics. I was never gonna go D1 for anything, not even in the wheelhouse. I played rugby, like that's not. But a huge amount of high school athletes take steroids and then quit when they get to college. So in high school, I was tempted a lot to take steroids. As I said before, didn't take them because the whole thing of I had no problem injecting a mystery substance into myself, but if I would be damned if I was going to be injecting it into myself with an unclean needle. You're out of your goddamn mind. So I knew this kid. I don't want to say his real name, so we'll call him fucking Student X, and he had diabetes. So at one point I was like, if I were to hop on cycle, could I get some? And he said no. So no steroids for Owen. As a neuroscientist, what are your thoughts on gentlemen going through puberty taking androgenic steroids or anabolic steroids? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think you want the truth, though.
Okay, so then next topic is making fun of British people / fetal alcohol syndrome. 1 in 3 British citizens are born with some form of fetal alcohol syndrome. I think that statistic is actually insane. I just wanted to bring it up because British people have a very large superiority complex. I don't drink, but British people and unfortunately Irish people have a very large superiority complex over a lot of Americans because they think Americans can't drink. They think Americans don't drink as often as we do. Here's the problem: 1 in 3 of you guys have fetal alcohol syndrome. You've got an entire country of ice spices running around. You know, like drinking is cool and everything. I wish that I was able to do it. Unfortunately, I can't. I'm an alcoholic, so no drinking for me, and that's fine. But when you allow it to become a cornerstone of your culture, you inevitably get the issue of 1 in 3 people being born with fetal alcohol syndrome, which I don't know how you trust public transit. You think I'm getting on a bus in a country where I've got a 33% chance of that, but it's diabolical. Anyway, that was just a quick little tangent I wanted to go on. I don't really have much more insights. I just kind of want to spread the truth. That is, never let a British person talk down to you for their intelligence because they're effectively a coin toss away from having FAS, which is crazy. Next topic I wanted to talk about the role that raw milk played in Donald Trump getting elected for president in 2024. I don't know if you know this. The FDA has an entire task force dedicated to shutting down and raiding farms that distribute raw milk to consumers. Raw milk in America is illegal to sell for human consumption in most states. Um, One of the most important swing states in presidential elections is Pennsylvania. And fun fact about Pennsylvania, they've got a pretty large group of people who aren't too fond of technology. These people are called the Amish. The Amish don't like pasteurized milk. I believe they call it English technology. Um, the FDA had several armed raids with SWAT teams on Amish farms between the 2020 and the 2024 election. It was gross government overreach, pretty large infringement of their First Amendment rights. Freedom of religion applies to if someone wants to drink milk that gets them sick. I think that's their God-given right. Amish people are up to a whole lot of stuff. I don't know why we decided to draw the line at raw milk, but we did. And because of these raids on Amish farms, the Amish turned out at higher rates for the 2024 election than they have for any presidential election in U.S. history. So I think, we got to stop these. We got to stop this nonsense. What are we doing? Someone wants to drink raw milk, let them. I think, if you are in support of banning raw milk, you need to ask yourself the serious question of, do you want to live in a nanny state? If you want to live in a nanny state, that's fine. I'm not going to yuck your yum, but maybe someday a police officer is going to shoot you in the back of the head because you didn't do a proper job wiping, and that's a health hazard. So please be conscious of what you're voting for, and please be conscious of what policies you're supporting. In the just brief little news segment, some breaking news out of Serbia. Archduke Franz Ferdinand has been shot and killed by a member of the Black Hand, goes by the name Gavrilo Princip. While we can call it a political snafu, while this political snafu is unfortunate and we're praying for the family of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, nothing is likely to come from this. It's probably going to blow over, get covered up in the news in a couple weeks, and it's not a big deal or anything. So, last thing I wanted to talk about was fake majors in college. Somewhat also somewhat related to my take on the people who do celebrity lookalike contests.
No, please tell me it saved. That was so funny. No, please tell me it saved.